How's it going, YouTube? How's it going, Man United? Hi. Straight back for another stream. Ralf Rangnick, the new Man United interim manager. That we've all been running to his phones, running to Google, running to YouTube to find out a bit more about this guy. Maybe British fans have been doing that a little bit more. Not everybody, but I can't confess I know a great deal about him, but done a little bit of homework on him. So he's agreed a 6-month deal with a 2-year consultancy deal. It comes with his second in command, Lars Konetka, who apparently has worked with the likes of Pep and Julian Nagelsmann. So yeah, some big names there. So some interesting thoughts. He's been quite quite an interesting one. He's wanted to get involved. He's put his name forward. He's been quite vocal and quite obviously interested about what's about the Man United job. He's not been shy in coming forward and saying that he's interested in taking the job on. So interesting then in that regard that he's very much ready for the job and he knows what it's entailing. I'm sure he's been taking that all on board and watching the games and watching where we need to improve. He comes as a bit of a regarded as a bit of an influencer in terms of not only for the players but in terms of other managers, which I'll talk a bit about. So he's influenced a lot of managers that you'll no doubt have already heard of, including Klopp. He's been an influencer in the league, I think, from a financial point of view, but most definitely from a footballing point of view in terms of how teams approach things. And I think he's influenced teams like Borussia Dortmund and other teams in the league, and obviously clearly RB Leipzig as well. So so a 6-month deal with a 2-year consultancy role. What does that mean for Carrick, Fletcher, some of the ex-players that are currently in some big roles? Is he going to retain some of that ethic? Is he going to see that being important? Is he going to Carrick a chance to retain that position within the Man United team? Obviously now he's bringing in a second in command and assistant, which I think is great. Is he going to kick all those staff out? To be bloody honest, I hope so. I think, with all respect to Phelan and what he's done in the club, I think his time has come. I think there's other coaches, I mentioned it yesterday, about a coach who was there. I think he was at Southampton, who didn't have much footballing experience, was a fitness sort of tactical coach that we need to get rid of. And I just hope he brings that ethic in. I was reading some stuff about him earlier on, which I'll bring up on the screen, and we'll have a little look at that. And quite an interesting quote about some previous match 3D experience that the players have been using, and the players have been absolutely loving it at RB Leipzig. And I thought that was brilliant. That's the first I've ever heard of something like that, like a training regime where the players are in like a 3D dynamic replay of the games where they can react to stuff. I just thought it was unreal. I've never heard of that before. So we'll bring it up on the screen, talk a little bit about that. But just what I'd initially talk about, what he said, his initial statement is about his style of football, and then talk a bit about his record. So just in terms of his style of football, so he's quizzed a little bit on this. He's put there that we like to press high with a very intensive counter pressure. When we have the ball, we don't like any square or back passes. Now, there's been a lot of sort of Man United fans getting very excited about this, about the fact that he's coming in and all these things that he's talking about in terms of the style of play is suddenly then going to transfer into these players that we've got. Systems only work and styles of play only work if those players have got the ability to do it, first of all, the skill and the ability to do it, but have also got the buy-in and the work ethic to implement it, especially a counter-attacking style of play. If anybody watched the Man City PSG game last night, PSG clearly had a better team on paper than Man City had, considering Man City didn't have Foden. Foden was injured. Grealish was out. and De Bruyne was out. So there's 3 massive players there for them that were missing in that team. So on paper, they were stronger. Now, what PSG had in midfield was an engine, similar to a Man United team, you could argue, in Freddie McTominay. They had Herrera, Idrissa Gueye, some engines in there, not class ball playing midfielders. And the downside to PSG last night, and the concerning thing, and this is the concerning thing about Poch, by the way, in terms of his tactics now, he went into that game, is that if those front 3 in Messi, Mbappe and Neymar aren't going to support the midfield when either pressing pressing Man City's defence to force a ball out, or track back to tuck into midfield when you've got a low block, when the press hasn't worked, you've got to come back, you've got to then tighten up at the back. If they're not going to do that, which on several occasions they didn't do that, Man United didn't do that, and then what happened to us was Walker and Cancelo exploited us. Once again, Cancelo and Walker exploited PSG, and obviously they got a goal from Walker exploiting that space in behind. So in terms of a Man United team, I mean, there's talk now he's looking at how to use Shaw in different ways. Maybe looking at how Pep's using Cancelo at Man City, how Tuchel's using Reece James and Chilwell as well at Chelsea. Looking at now, there's a lot of talk, and I think it's been like this for years. Personally, I don't think this has been a new dynamic, but I think personally, obviously there's massive focus now on fullbacks being the outlets now, being the point of contact, being the one that starts the attack, but delivers that deadly ball. Is the outlet in the throughput to which attacks occur. So crossing in balls, making deadly through balls. Typically it was a centre midfielder. You could argue that then it became a centre half pushing up if you dominated the ball. And then you could argue, it was a number 10, sometimes a number 9 if you played into his chest, feet, head, whatever. And now it's becoming fullbacks, wingbacks, whatever you want to call them, that are now the go-to players, because what happens is the rest of the team are doing the legwork for them to find space. A lot of teams are quite narrow now to combat possession football and teams dominate them. So, but it allows space. We saw it at Barcelona. Barcelona with the classic example of that style of play with Dani Alves, bombing in behind, little balls over. Just search Dani Alves assists at Barcelona and you'll get a view of kind of that system of play with Pep. And Pep's now doing it with Man City. It's taken a few years to get that style. He's played several other types of styles and it's now coming to fruition. So, yeah, they said obviously playing high, lads press high, very intensive counter pressure. So that's basically we lose a ball, we win it back within the first minute, 2 minutes. It's a Pep style play. It's not anything that we haven't seen or heard before. You have to have players who are all going to do that. If all the players don't do that, you've got a problem. It then creates a hole or a gap where that it's not going to work. So everybody needs to do that. You don't necessarily need skillful players to do that. To just need players who are fit and are energetic to be able to press high and counter attack. When we have the ball, we don't like any square passes. Yeah, so when you win the ball under the press, naturally what you would normally do when you win a ball under a press, obviously you usually winning it when the opposition are then sort of stunned. It's basically like a counter. So you've bobbed and weaved, and then you've hit them back, and it's put them under a bit of shock. Or in footballing terms, you've won the ball back high up in their third, or you've won it from a loose pass, and then suddenly they're on the back foot, out of position. And so what he's saying there is we should be going long, wide, long, direct. Not long as in, route one, but direct to the ground, to feet, to wingers, to Sancho, to Rashford, into feet to Bruno, killer passes, 1, 2, 3, 4, goal, 1, 2, 3, 4, goal, 1, 2, 3, goal. Not let's get a ball, right, we've won it back, right, let's just be tidy with this and go all the way back to Maguire's feet, let's go all the way back to David De Gea's feet, let's go all the way back to Lindelof or back to the fullbacks. Not what we should be doing. And I agree with him with that. That's the style of play that everybody wants to play. Now, the problem that I have is not with Ralf Rangnick and what Ralf Rangnick is going to bring to Man United, because I think that's what we all want to see. My problem is that the players aren't going to play to that system and that style. Now, I suppose a lot of the argument to that will be, well, yeah, but we've had coaches in that have come in with different types of players and haven't had a system like this that I've openly admitted to be an attacking, risky style of football. Okay, that's fair enough. And I do want to see that. We all want to see that. Every single team within the Premier League wants to see their team playing that way. Is every team in the league capable of playing that way? No. Are Man United capable of playing that way? I think at times against Villarreal, I think we showed that we could do it. Can we then retain the ball and then trust each other, trust our other, trust the midfielders, trust ourselves as players to then play those passes? And I just don't think that we do as a team. That's just my opinion. Somewhat interestingly, he strays from the idea that a keeper should be able to be used to the ball at his feet. Yeah, should be able to be used to the ball to his feet. That's really a bit wrong. Saying that the goalkeeper also should not be the one who with the most contact on the ball. In almost every league and every country, the goalkeeper is technically the most limited football player on the pitch, and therefore we have to make sure that he's the lowest contact with the feet. Now, yeah, I agree with that. I think with David De Gea, he's the most comfortable when the ball's coming to his feet, and every time it does come to his feet, I'm always wincing a little bit, especially when he's under pressure, because I've not got any confidence that he's necessarily going to deal with it with confidence. And other players in the league, they tend to have a little bit better ball retention than he does. And I don't think Man United have ever had goalkeepers who have been that competent with the feet, and it does seem to be a new thing now, doesn't it, over the last sort of 4 or 5 years, especially where, Manuel Neuer was probably one of the best ones with it. Edison now sort of running rampant with that really, and Donnarumma, I suppose, and players like goalkeepers like that, where, the competent goalkeepers who are not afraid to put their foot on the ball and play a bit with it. So he doesn't like that style. I think if your goalkeeper is doing that, usually you're under pressure. Certain teams like Man City can use it where it's just another outlet that gets you away. So it means what it does is it pushes out it pushes your defender. Instead of your defenders having to fill that gap where they defend to come into that space to play the ball or to come and get it to start distributing it, your goalkeeper's doing that, which means it pushes a further player forward to be able to get into space where normally they wouldn't. So it then puts more pressure on the opposition to think about the extra player that's there. So there's pros and cons to it. I don't necessarily like it. I think if you've got competent enough defenders and you're competent enough on the ball, you shouldn't have to worry about the ball being in that part of the pitch for too long anyway. So he summed up his style of play by saying it's a fast, proactive, attacking, counter-attacking, counter-pressing, exciting and entertaining football. I mean, he's just said all the things that, we all want to hear, don't we, really? It's a fast, proactive, attacking, counter-attacking, counter-pressing. I don't know what counter-pressing... Well, counter-pressing means... I know you can be counter-attacking and counter-pressing. Counter-pressing seems to suggest that you would be more possessive of the ball, unless you're going to move that ball forward quickly, which might not necessarily always be under a counter-attack, I suppose. But yeah, so it's a fast, proactive, attacking, counter-attacking, counter-pressing, exciting and entertaining football, providing should have caveated this sentence, providing the players are able to do so, are able to perform at that level. Yeah, we'll have to see. So that's one statement there from Ralf Rangnick, and it's good. It's positive. I'm happy. I'm pleased as a Man United fan. I'm pleased to see that we're doing some business. Poch, is he the right man to follow a Rangnick? Is his style similar to the one that Rangnick's promoting here? Probably not. And from last night, would suggest not. It wasn't a fast, proactive attacking. It was a counter-attacking team. It wasn't a counter-pressing team. It was entertaining. It was exciting. PSG last night, but was it fast, proactive, attacking, and counter-pressing? No, it wasn't. Maybe some people would argue it would be, but definitely wasn't a high pressing team, which from his first statement, we like to press high with a very intense counter pressure. Poch has got to follow in those footsteps. Is he going to start listening to some other manager when he's just been managing at PSG? He's going to tell him to do one, isn't he? And think, well, no, I've got my own style. But yeah, so this, are we out of the woods yet? Ralf Rangnick with a 2-year consultancy job. Then after that, then he's going to start. Maybe Poch has got a lot of respect for this guy. I don't know. We don't know that relationship there. So Poch comes in potentially. Then suddenly he's then got Ralf Rangnick telling him how it's going to be. I suppose it all depends on how Ralf Rangnick performs in this 6 months period. Because if he's had a poor 6 to 8 months, and then he's got a 2-year consultancy period, then we're all going to be tearing his hair out, aren't we? So let's just see. And then if he's then got to listen to we've all got to listen to Ralf when Poch comes in. I think we're all going to be a little bit pissed off, aren't we? So yeah, so that was his statement there. Let's get rid of that for a second. So we're going to just bring up his stats, really. Just wanted to bring up his stats in terms of his managerial performance. Let me just bring that up a second. There we go. Let's try that. Oops. Let's try that one out. Get that interview. So that's his. So this is Ralf Rangnick's managerial stats. And as you can see, it's. I read a little bit about him. He managed at Southwark, actually. Southwark. From England, but I don't know if this is just one of these ones to catch me out. Southwark for a year, randomly, this country. So he was in England, first job, managed in England, first year of his sort of tenure. And then he studied at Sussex University, believe it or not, by all accounts. But had a pretty ropey, a pretty poor playing career. Didn't really sort of play at any sort of decent level, really. Albeit that's not really anything to take from anybody's managerial stats, I suppose. There's a lot of managers out there that haven't been great players who've gone on to be great managers. Probably Fergie, you would argue. Wenger, managers like that haven't been class players. Klopp, Pep, maybe. Obviously, he was at Barca, but did he the Barca area that wasn't as prolific as it was in the late 90s, 2000s. So yeah, obviously had his massive success really. Rangnick at Hoffenheim, where they won the German Super Cup, the League Cup, German League Cup, and got to the semis of the UEFA Champions League after getting beaten, and then got beat by United. So that was obviously a massive year for him, really. That 2008 year. Did really, really well at that. And you can see his win percentages really, it was sort of good. 40s, 50s, 48, 41, pretty poor. 44, 55 at Schalke, which is good, I think, for that, that year he was there. 47, 43, 47, 43. I mean, 47 at Hoffenheim is pretty good. Back at Schalke, did a 43 after his 55 spell. Was only there March to September, so did he come in sort of a similar capacity? Went to RB Leipzig and is at 58 and 55, so he's really transformed them as a team. So there is a bit of, there is some, real positive kind of numbers there. I think ultimately he's just been a massive influencer as a coach, for coaches as well, such as Klopp, Tuchel, Ralf Rangnick and Julian Nagelsmann, in terms of his style of play, in terms of that style. And so, that's something we're looking for at United. My concern is how he integrates with the players. We've obviously got some youth players there, and I think he'll hopefully try to integrate them in the team. That's something that now we've got to look for as a club, really, to try and integrate some of the youth system into it. There's so many young talented players within the academy that we're hearing about. Hannibal, Shoretiri. There's this young kid that came up today. I forgot his name. I apologise. I forgot his name, but it was like the quickest in the academy under 19s. Scored a goal. I can't remember his name. I have to find out. Constant. Obviously, Greenwood's not an academy player anymore, but he's on the fringe of like the team, the starting 11, and had done class at the start of the year. Has done nothing wrong. Has scored goals, and then he's been dropped, obviously, because of Ronaldo's introduction. So there's obviously still room for these players to come in. There's different roles I think players can play. I don't think Bruno has to play in an attacking midfield role constantly. I think he's good playing deep. I thought he did it quite well against Villarreal. I think Shaw could quite easily play like a sort of centre left mid type role, more advanced, with somebody in behind him if we played with the back three. There's options, constant options, that I think we need to look at doing. I think from a managerial point of view, a long-term managerial point of view, clearly Ralf Rangnick is not the man that we need. He's a man who's going to be quite an integral part of a team and a club, about moving it, getting the club up from humble sort of beginnings. Obviously, United are not a humble status, but in terms of getting a club from what should really be a quality set of players doing better things, and hopefully getting them to better things. So I'm really hopeful for that with him, and then hopefully we get the right men in after that. Now, I don't believe if this man's going to be in, and that's the angle that we want to go down, that's the route we want to go down, that Poch is then the right man to follow his in his footsteps. I don't think he has that same mentality. But then again, does Poch have a similar scenario that we have with Ronaldo, where he's undroppable? Albeit I know Ronaldo's, he's performing and he's delivering, whereas you could argue Messi isn't, Mbappe is, and Neymar isn't as much. But those three guys are undroppable. They're undroppable, and it proved yesterday that they were lazy, they didn't want to work, and that's a problem for a team and a manager when you've got three undroppable players in a starting 11. So, it's a tough gig to have, and so am I being, obviously there's room there for Poch to show what he's worth. I'm not totally disregarding that it wouldn't work after Ralf Rangnick, but let's I don't think it'd be the 100% perfect follow-on from what Rangnick is all about. So yeah, that's his managerial stats there. Just want to finally get up. Just want to finally get up a little bit of a statement. That he mentioned, I thought it was quite interesting. It was regarding this sort of style of what he's done at Leipzig and some of the style that he's introduced there, really. So just try and get this up if I can. We'll talk through this statement. I thought that was quite interesting. So we'll just get this statement up. Sure, my laptop's not gonna. My computer's not going to enjoy this. Yeah, there we go. I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger. If I can actually get in to the shot. There we go. Let's just reduce that a little bit. There we go. So this is something he said, not entirely sure where he said this. Said this in an interview recently. If you want to increase the speed of your game, you have to develop quicker minds rather than quicker feet. Again, it comes back to his idea, and I said this earlier on at the start of this, that means that he's not looking for people, and Tuchel's the same, isn't he? He's not looking for skillful players, skillful, technical, gifted players. However, at clubs like Man United, like Chelsea, like Liverpool, you have skillful players. The impetus and the emphasis is around the speed in which you implement the tactics. So the press, working hard, that ethic that they need to have. You implement those things, and the players that Man United have with the skill set that they've got, then it starts bleeding into wins, into goals, into better performances. That's ultimately where we need to be at. So yeah, let's close this down. So yeah, so if you want to increase the speed of your game, you have to develop quicker minds rather than quicker feet. At RB Leipzig, we work on increasing the memory space and the processing pace. We put players into the soccer bot, whatever that is. This is the interesting part. For example, a machine that simulates previous games and allows players to relive key moments of the match. That's amazing. I've never heard of that before. That's absolutely amazing. Like some sort of VR football game. I mean, that should just be available anyway, like for everybody, shouldn't it? Really, that's just like sounds amazing. Less injuries, increased enjoyment. Brilliant. Yeah, so that just sounds that's unbelievable. If you can sort of bring in that at United, and it's like, why United? Why have United not got those facilities anyway? But or maybe they have. But increasing the memory space and the processing pace. So instantly, I've got the ball. Where does it go? Goes there. Right, bang, it goes there in that situation. Or I've lost the ball. What do I do next? What does my teammate do? Where do I go? Or the opposition have got the ball in that location, in that situation. What do I do? What's my tactic? Where do I go? That's the processing pace. And then eventually, as that quickens up, you get to a point where, it becomes unbelievable. Like basically what Liverpool are doing now. That kind of processing power where everybody's going forward in the same dynamic. It just works. It works because everybody knows what they should be doing. It's like when players play passes into certain channels and certain spaces without even looking, because you just know that if they're doing their job, they should be there. When that confidence goes and those tactics go out the window, then it doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. And the confidence dips and the morale dips and the performances dip as a result of all that. So that's encouraging. It's a PlayStation football, but with your feet. Players enjoy it so much, but we have a hard time getting some of them to stop, which sounds bloody fun, doesn't it? But I equally think it sounds amazing if we can get the players to a point where absolutely love some of the things that he's introducing. That would be fantastic. Tactics, fitness, and rules are hugely important, but they're all only a means to an end. My job, or the job, is to improve players. Players follow you as a manager if they feel that you make them better. And that's the greatest, most sincere motivation there is as a manager. I assume that's what he means. Brilliant. That's what we need. And that's what we need more so. Not for Ronaldo. Not for, some of the older players in the squad. For the younger players. For the players that, like Greenwood, still like Bruno, even Maguire. There's a lot of hassle on Maguire. Maguire's a young player. We saw at Villarreal. I thought he had a solid game. You get those tactics in around him, he'll perform. like Luke Shaw. There's other players on the periphery of that squad that could come into it in a couple of years' time as well. And if you can get those players to improve, and players want to see improvement. Sancho scored again in his first game. He scored his first goal against Villarreal the other night. Massive balls and the energy and the release of that pressure showed in that celebration. And Ronaldo was so pleased for him. As a manager like Ralf Rangnick, now he would just feed off that and allow him to enjoy that moment and allow him to excel. Someone like Jadon Sancho, with him coming in, with his experience in the German league, is going to be absolutely excellent for him as well. That's going to be absolutely brilliant. And that's what we need. So, right, guys. Yeah, it's been interesting. Ralf Rangnick, we'll see how we get on. Big step forward for Man United. Finally, somebody's pulled the finger out. What's going to happen to the coaching staff? Carrick, Fletcher, other people in and around Phelan, McKenna. Are they going to get the oust? Are they going to get the kick? Maybe if Carrick does do well on the weekend, then we might see Carrick keep some sort of capacity. And I think, to be quite honest, I would expect Carrick to have some sort of capacity within the club, but I think it will be a drastically reduced one, if I'm brutally honest. But I do hope that he does retain some level of influence within the club personally. Or not influence, maybe, but I do hope that he has some involvement with the club at some level. So that's it's interesting. Interesting times. Positive. Just another thing to think about, and I wish he was there on the weekend. Obviously, it would have been too soon anyway to expect him to do anything, but I'm sure he's on the foot. He seems like a very, very, very professional guy and a very enthusiastic guy, and I'm sure he's all over this now. We're trying to get in there and do his thing and do his bit, and we'll see. We'll see see how we get on next week, which will be the first big test for him, I'm sure. And that'll be Arsenal, I believe. So, yeah, big one for him to get his teeth into. Right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. If you watch this back, again, hit the share. Share it. Hit the subscribe button and give it a like. Just come and watch next time. I'm posting pretty much every night that I can. Post it on Twitter. Trying to get some Instagram stuff going. I'm usually doing it around 8 o'clock because it's sort of the best time to do it. So if you do watch this back, come on next time and try and catch me about 8 o'clock, and we'll have a bit of a chat, get commenting, and we can discuss some stuff. Cheers, guys. Thank you. See you later.